and I am recording, and that's good. So welcome. This is October 1st, 2019. It's class number 6 is Gardner Webb's MELS 601 add-on, and I'm Robin Hamilton, and I am your instructor, and I'm so glad to be with you this evening. So welcome to class 6. So we're going to go ahead and pull up week 6 so that you can see what's on the agenda for week 6. So you'll see that by this Sunday night, the things that you will turn in will be your AppSell Task 4 revisions. So y'all have been working on that, and I know it's a lot, but it does sort of pull it all together. At the beginning of this class, and the first time I worked with one of these classes, there are so many new acronyms and things that you just don't have a frame of reference for. And we try really hard to sort of let you see that how these things build on each other for your final product. But it's just hard to wrap that around your mind until you've gone through this and once, and then it sort of starts making sense to you. So I think a lot of you talked about that on your Zoom videos too, how it started coming together and making sense, and you're seeing how things are building. So that's really good. So finish those up. And then AppSell Task 4 peer reviews. You need 2 of those peer reviews in the assignment drop boxes. And then your AppSell Task 5 to the instructor will go into the, that says the drop box, but put it in the discussion board for review first before you put it in the drop box. And you will not do peer reviews on Task 5, so you will not have that to do. So those are due this Sunday, October the 6th. So just back to Task 4 for just a minute. Remember, there are 2 prompts in Task 4. And so when you turn in your final evidence by this Sunday night for Task 4, both of those prompts should be complete, and you should have met with your administrator to try to sell your proposal to your administrator. We are getting more rigorous with all of our expectations, but particularly our peer review expectations. So make sure that you're taking time with those peer reviews. Make it worth your time to give that feedback, and make it worth your peers' time as well to receive that feedback. We want that feedback to be meaningful and descriptive for both of you. So even if everything looks perfect to you, don't just say, oh, everything looks good, or don't just say, oh, it's just aligned with the template, but give them examples of what is good. It needs to be a couple of sentences at least per each box. This will help you prepare to give feedback to adults in your building, to teachers, to work with your walkthroughs and your evaluations that will be coming your way even in this course very soon. So this peer feedback is a great place for you to learn good, descriptive, helpful feedback to others. Using positive feedback on specific observations helps teachers grow in their strengths. This helps them become better at what they already do. And you'll notice that if you see something that someone's really strong at and you comment explicitly about that, you're going to see that more and more, and you're also going to see that skill or that strength develop in them. And so that's a big part of this role as an administrator, is to try to help to develop those adult strengths and talents so that they are moving forward and doing better in their work with children. And providing constructive feedback helps teachers grow as well. Sometimes it's just one little nuance that they don't even realize that they're doing or not doing, or that they just don't even realize it. And all you have to do is point it out, and then they're like, oh. So one thing I like to do at my school is if the kindergartens, this is just an example, if the kindergartners are doing stations, I'll go from room to room to room to room to room to room and just sort of compare. So a few years ago, I was going through, and it was about this time of year, and they were doing predictable chart sentences. So, like the word, it was the sentence broken up into little parts. They were laminated, and made a sentence out of all of them. So it said, I see a red spider. I see a green spider. I see a blue spider. So the color words were written like in the color of the color. So like red was written in red, black was written in black, etc. And there was a little spider that corresponded with that color. So they're seeing the color, they're reading it, they know that's the word. The rest of the sentences in all the classrooms, with the exception of one, were all just written in black. I was in black, C was in black, A was in black, spider was in black. And then there was another teacher who had it all color coded. So like the whole red spider sentence was all in red. And so, and I might have just told that whole story wrong because I didn't think about it until I just started saying that. But regardless, the point of the story is, there was one teacher, the way she had it done, all the children had to do was look at the color of the cards and know the sequence of the sentences and know exactly how to do it. But the other teachers, the children actually had to do a little more work. So when she didn't realize her teammates had done theirs differently, she thought they had all done it the very same. Well, of course, she immediately changed that in the future and moved right on. So it's just those little things that sometimes you can point out that, that they don't even realize. They think they're doing the same thing their teammates are doing, but they're not in their teammates' room, so they really don't know. So you'll see also in resources for week 6, we had Aldridge, chapters 1 and 2. We had then one this week. And then there's a YouTube video right there that you can watch about political leadership. We'll be watching, we'll be talking a little about micropolitical leadership. This YouTube video is about 30 minutes long. And in this Life of Privilege, we're going to look at that together a little later on tonight. So even though we are specifically going into all this every single week, we still need to make sure that you are doing these readings, because these readings really do give you information and resources from which you can pull, and really does support your learning and support what you are trying to do here. You should be able to see connections between the readings for each week, what we talk about in class, and then what your assignments are. We do like to see these resources listed as resources, references in your work. And I have been seeing a lot of that, so that has really been good. So up to now, you should have all your APSL tasks 1, 2, and 3 in for final evaluations. For your instructor reviews and for your final evaluations, you should have done 2 peer reviews and uploaded those 2 different places in Dropbox. So you should have done 2 peer reviews for each of those. You should have those tasks 1 and 2 and 3 uploaded in Dropbox for your final evaluation, your final grade. Now this coming Sunday, you'll have your task 4 in for a final grade. Your APSL Zoom videos should all be in. I watched all those and gave you all feedback on those. Those were good. I wish I had been there with y'all. Felt like I was missing out. I am still missing a few things, so if you can go in and see if you don't have a grade for something, you need to get that uploaded. And then by this Sunday night, you're going to also have your task 5, which is your last APSL task, and that will be uploaded for instructor review. And then once I give you feedback, then you can go in and then you'll upload that in the Dropbox final evaluation. You'll have your task 5 uploaded in the dashboard. And then after your instructor review is where you're putting in for a final evaluation by October the 6th. And again, you do not have peer reviews for task 5. APSL task 5 is the last one. And then we will be putting that APSL together for your final look-overs and everything before we put those in for your final submission. So when you put your APSL task 5 into your Dropbox for evaluation, I don't know if y'all can see y'all's pictures on there, but it seems like they are always right where, let's see, let me scroll down. So APSL completed peer Dropbox. So when you put your APSL task, oh, there's not a place in there. I promise, I thought we had a grade in there for that. Well, okay, I'm glad I looked. Then you're going to need to put it in the, great. And let's see if we can just put it in discussion board. Yeah, Put it in yeah, put it, and you can put it right there for your instructor review. So that's where that will go. Task 5 for instructor review, right there in the discussion board. When you do your task 5, then what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and merge all your tasks 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 together into one document. So that means you're going to have one literature review. You're going to have one appendix one set of appendices at the end. So you will go back and you'll look at your work and you'll make sure that like all your figures and tables are in the right sequential order. You'll make sure that your appendices are in order. So the first appendix that's referenced as Appendix A is the first appendix that's really in the appendix as Appendix A. You'll want to go back and you'll want to look and make sure that all your references are cited correctly and that the citation matches the references. You'll want that Task 5 document. Once you've done your Task 5, you're going to merge all that together. You want your whole APSL paper to look like you wrote it all in one sitting. So it just needs to look like you didn't do it in chunks. It needs to look like it's just one document. That means you're going to have one cover page, one everything. So just make it look like you just did it all at one time. Now you'll notice over here you have this APSL turn it in check. Please ignore that for right now. Ignore your APSL turn it in check. You do not want to touch that right now because that's not where we want to go yet. So you're not going to submit that there. I'm going to look at it. Dr. Stedman's going to look at it. And we're going to all have reviewed it. And this turn it in check is not due until October 13th. So I'm going to have looked at it. Dr. Stedman's going to look at it. You're going to be looking back over it before you ever go to this turn it in check. You will get verbal permission, written permission to turn it in check. So before you do it, so do not turn it in there to turn it in check until you have permission to turn it in check. So if you can look at this little red arrow about turn it in, sort of think about that as the red circle with the line going through it. Don't do that until you have everything. The evaluator will evaluate it. If it's accepted as a passing grade, it'll move on. If not, it'll be returned to you. You will not upload this into TaskStream until you get permission. The biggest issues for why these get returned are references, APA formatting, references not being cited, not being aligned, the reference section at the end of the document being not APA aligned or not matching the citations in the narrative. With multiple people looking over everything you do, it gets to TaskStream, gets there, trouble. We are trying to have lots of checks and balances so that everything is good to go. So remember, do not submit to turn it in check or TaskStream without permission. So Dr. Stedman's going to look. We're all taking turns looking at each other's because we want to make sure that we're not missing anything. I mean, we're sitting here reading all these hours on end. We can start sort of dozing too and miss things too. So, I mean, it's just that's why we have to all work together on it. We'll do all that and we'll make suggestions. And when we make suggestions, it's your responsibility to go in and change those because we might not go back and check afterwards. But we'll talk more about that final submission next Tuesday night. And so then we will move on from there on next Tuesday. So I am going to stop sharing my screen for just a second and I'm going to try to check out some chats that I think we may have. If I can get them to come up. Do we leave in the task directions and prompt directions? Anything that's in black, you leave in. So some of those, so let's just look at that right quick. So, yes, here we go. I had that pulled up to task 5, but we'll move back up here. So for instance, you'll take that yellow highlighting, well, that's not a good example, but you'll take these directions out. That's the, you take all three of those things out. That's the first thing. The red should already be, again, this would be highlighted. The red should be gone because you have typed in on top of the red. Then the highlighting's gone, but the black stays. But as far as the task 3 descriptions and instructions, leave those there. I think I'm saying that right. Leave those there. Let's go back to our example. Yes, see, here's the example of the completed app cell right here. And the task 4 directions are still in there. Not all of the directions. So that's a good question. So I'm going to jot that down and make sure then, because it doesn't look like all of them were left in here, but it looks like the main directions were left in there. So I will check on that and I will send out an email about that just to make sure I'm not leading you astray.
Dr. Hamilton, can you share your screen with us?
Oh my goodness.
It's okay.
Sorry. Okay, here we go. Let's go back to that. Thank you for saying something. Good Lord. Okay, here we go. Here we go. So here's our example. Back to this. Okay. Now, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. It looks the same to me either way. So, oh, we don't want the example. We want the this. So all this yellow stuff would go away, but the black stuff stays. And then like where, let me go back and see if I can find the red up here. Like that red would have gone away because you would have already typed that in there. So let me find out exactly what they're going to want this semester about which parts of the descriptions and etc. stay, and I will find out and let you know. And then I'm going to go back and try to answer the other questions. Oops. Do we remove all the prompts? Those red, Tony, are you talking about those red? Yes, you're going to take the red out because you're going to sort of type over the top of that red. Oh, Nancy, oh no. Is anyone else having problems with volume? You can't hear me? Oh no, the internet is going in and out. Oh no. Okay. You're the only one. No, not sharing my screen. Yes. Take out the red and take out the red words and take out the yellow highlights. That is correct. Okay, and everybody is muted. Sometimes that'll make things go in and out, so that shouldn't be a problem. Okay, well, hopefully it will get better now with everybody. Let's talk about task 5, and let me remember to share my screen this time. Here we go. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go back to this, and we're going to talk about task 5. Task 5 is your last task that you will be working on. And in task 5, you're going to reflect on your AppSell experience by aligning the course content. So what you have done, the work you have done in task 1, 2, 3, and 4 with your clinical experience. So what you've been doing in your internship. So you're going to merge those two things together for task 5, what you've done in your work and your internship. You're going to reflect on your own personal development of those competencies and dispositions, because all 21 of these are very important to effective school leadership. So you're going to, instructions then, you're going to reflect on your AppSell experience by critically assessing personal development by fusing course content with your clinical experience. So what you've been doing with what you've been doing in your class, with what you've been doing in your school, in relation to those 21st North Carolina standards for school executive competencies. Now, You must cite your sources and your clinical experiences that influence a self-analysis of each competency addressed throughout the APSL. You're not going to do all 21, you're going to do 12 for the APSL, and the other 9 will be in the APTEL. So, oh, lost it. So prompt 1, it says you are going to reflect on the APSL experience by critically assessing your personal development by fusing, merging, whatever word you want to use right there, your course content with your clinical experience. You must cite your sources and clinical experiences that influence a self-analysis with each competency addressed throughout the APSL. So anything that you might want to reflect on, like you learned that PLCs need to have a vision and a mission, then you need to cite that. Where did you learn that from? How do you know that? How do you know that certain technology tools are good for learning and assessing learning? Well, you might have learned that through some of your past research that you've done. So you would want to cite that. So anything that you've learned through your research that you reflect on in here, you're going to have to cite. So the first 8 are non-negotiable. And if you look at your MELS Clinical Internship Handbook, you'll see that those first 8 competencies, and these are the same ones. Now don't confuse this, this is 2 different places. These are the same ones that you have uploaded, hopefully, in your task stream and your competency folio that you created. So the first 8 are required, and then you're going to do 4 more that you're going to choose. So these are going to be addressed in the narrative, just sort of like what you see right here under conflict management, for example. You're not submitting artifacts in your APSL. This is not where you submit artifacts. You submit artifacts in your competency folio. You're just going to explain in the narrative how you have met the requirements of each of these competencies. So we're only looking for the narrative for the APSL, so where these red words are. That's all we're looking for that. The 8 you have to do for the 8 that you have to do for this APSL are communication, change management, delegation, dialogue, judgment, systems thinking, technology, and visionary. So those are 8. And I'll say those again. Let me, can't see. Communication, change management, delegation, dialogue, judgment, systems thinking, technology, visionary. Then you're going to choose 4 more. So you'll have a total of 12 here under prompt 1. And then the other 9 you will do when you do your APTEL, which will be starting very soon. This is your competency analysis. So this is a persuasive narrative. This is how you're going to make your argument that you have completed this competency. This is going to be a written narrative. And if you refer to something that you learned through this process, you're going to cite that in here. Now, you would have already cited it probably somewhere else in your APSL work. So, but don't confuse this with your competency folio. That's what you created in task stream. And in that competency folio is where you'll put your artifact. So I want us to just look down here at, because this one will be, well, here's an example under communication. Now I think Dr. Lamb told you to go ahead and put your email asking for permission for your, to host your PLC at your school in communication in your competency folio in task stream. But here's an example under communication. The candidate attended a parent night at the alternative school. The candidate had the opportunity to talk to staff and parents. The candidate could discuss with parents areas of strengths and concerns. This event was beneficial. It allowed the candidate to interact with parents to obtain feedback as well. The candidate also had an opportunity to interact with staff. Most importantly, it showed staff support, which was greatly appreciated. It also allowed the candidate to meet with parents. The candidate really enjoyed this event. Okay, well, that's fine. So this is telling about what they've learned about communication, the importance of communication, and then what that was really like in their practice of their internship. So what you could do, so you're going to do 12 of these right now for the app sale. So I'm going to try to make your competency folio easy for you. So this is a very important right here. What you can do, once you've written your reflection right here, you can copy that, go to your competency folio, whatever you wrote under communication. The first thing you're going to do is you would say, make it bold, Fall 2019 app sale. You will put this in as your brief description. You'll paste that right in. And then in this example, you could upload a copy of the parent night agenda or the parent night flyer or the parent night flyer invitation or whatever you have as an artifact to show about this parent night. So you're going to label that artifact Fall 2019 app sale parent night flyer, whatever. So now you've labeled it both places, and the reason that it's important to label it is because you're going to have to make at least 3 submissions under communication. Under each of these, you'll be making 3 submissions throughout the next year. So you want to be able to keep up with, oh yeah, I already turned that in from app sale, now I have to turn in something from the app tail and an open-ended, or whatever the case may be. So when you do this work right here, and you don't want a whole lot in your competency folio as far as description, 3 to 5 sentences is good, but which is about what this probably is. You've already done this. You can take this and put this in your competency folio, and that will save you a mountain of time. Now, while you're doing this, start thinking as you're reflecting and writing on all these that I can sort of label and put aside so that I can just upload those right into my competency folios. So, so that's what you'll be doing for that. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a second, just so I can see if we have any chat questions. Are we supposed to have uploaded artifacts in task stream other than the email? You don't have to have had right now. I can't see your task stream. I would suggest, especially as you go through this last process, just go ahead and do it. Then it's done, because if not, you're going to be rushing that last week of class. Oh, now I'm having a sign that says my speakers. That's the problem. Let me open my door. Maybe that helps if I get closer to the internet. Who knows? If the wind blows in Wilmington, we can't seem to, what in this world? It's a different speaker. I don't know how to use a different. Microphone. I don't know what's happened. Can anybody hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, good. Okay, it still says my speaker's not working. Okay, well, Raise your hand if it's not, or say something. Just unmute and say something if it's not. It says it's not working, but I was going to try to hook on with my phone and try to do it that way. Okay, so we're going to move on then. So, oh, good. Thank you. So it takes a village here. All right, so now we're going to move on to our case study. This is going to let you all have the opportunity to once again work in your Zoom groups. So you'll come right here in your Blackboard and you're going to find your case study materials. And here are your case study. First of all, your first case study is due in 2 weeks. So you still have a little bit of time. That's due in week 8. So the case study is related to your work that you've completed in the app cell. So you're going to find more information about your case study in Blackboard under case study materials, which I've just pulled up for you. Read these directions very carefully. So here are the directions. We'll just open those up so that okay, I am sharing my screen. So the case study directions say, read the case study and write a 1-paragraph response for each of the questions. The Zoom Master schedule sends out the link and records the case study session. During your Zoom session, each team member shares their written response that you did up here in number 1, that 1 paragraph, and the group then engages in scholarly discussion of the responses led by the Zoom Master. Group consensus is desirable, but it isn't required. Then, so you've written a 1-paragraph response to the case study. You've now had your Zoom session. After your Zoom session, you're going to write a 1-page, 2-part reflective summary of the case study and the case study Zoom session. The case study part of the reflective summary includes an overview of the relevant points of the case. The Zoom session part of your reflective summary includes the takeaways from your discussion. So, those are your directions. They are right there in your Blackboard for you. And here is your case study scenario 1 that you'll be turning in 2 weeks, week 8. And it's called The Principal as the Instructional Leader. And so you are going to read this. And when you get to the bottom, you're going to find, it's not too bad. You get to the bottom, you're going to find 4 questions. You need to write a 1-paragraph response to each of these questions. And you'll see where you upload your written reflections for your case study and your Zoom link. Remember that your Zoom link has to be uploaded in YouTube and it has to be made public. So people always say, well, how long should this Zoom session last? Really and truly, it should not be more than 30 minutes. If you're the Zoom master and if you are all prepared and you've already sort of gone over this and know what you want to do and what you want to say and how you're going to organize it and move on, you can be very thorough and still succinct in probably less than 30 minutes. So we really want like a good scholarly discussion based on what you've learned and your experience from the working in the app cell. In your 1-page reflective summary, you're going to talk about what you got from the case study and what you got from working with your colleagues. This is about reading the case, writing your paragraphs, and then having your discussion. You do not have to send us the answer to your 4 questions. We will hear your answer to these 4 questions on the Zoom video. So you will not send us your paragraphs about these 4 questions. You will hear, that'll be guiding your discussion in your Zoom videos. But you will submit your 1-page reflection and your Zoom link to us for review. They're both submitted in the same location. I'm going to give you a hint. The case study number 1. James being a character in your case study, did not do a PLC. So that's your hint. So this semester you have learned how to put together a PLC. You've learned about the components of a PLC, the higher purpose of a PLC, norms, values, data analysis, research, all those things, how to identify a pressing need. Your hint is James failed to do all that. So at the point you are now, this should really be a piece of cake for you. This is really an assessment for us to be able to see how you are putting your learning into practice. Are you being able to internalize what we're talking about and doing and then apply that? This also helps us see if we have left gaps somewhere that we need to go back and follow up on and fill in. So this case study is how you're going to apply what you've learned in real life. So that's just case study number 1. You will not do case study number 2 right now. Case study number 2 comes towards the end of the semester. So you only do case study number 1 right now. Okay, I think we're good with that. So what we want to talk about tonight a little is the role of the 21st century administrator. And particularly micro-political leadership. That video that's in your materials is really good. It's about 30 minutes long. It's about micro-political leadership, and most of you will start as an assistant principal when you get a job in school administration. And that's probably really not going to prepare you. All you need to be prepared to be a principal, but it just is what it is. And so there's a few things that you can do to sort of help navigate all that. Know who you are, know your biases and your baggage. It's hard to know those things, and we all have baggage, we all have biases. It's just a part of being human. When we're dealing with staff and parents and students, we have to try to understand each other, understand where they're coming from, understand their emotions, understand that when people are having an emotional response, that their brains really do shut down and they really cannot think critically at that moment. It is truly a brain thing that they cannot. And so knowing that. Micropolitics also refers to formal and informal structures of influence. A lot of people call this knowing the pulse of your school. That's one thing that you will hear people refer to. What does your school look like internally? What does it look like to you from your outside community? What does it look like from the district perspective? So just trying to think about different perspectives and what's influencing different perspectives. And then we also have overt and covert conflict. We can have a staff meeting, we can think everything goes fine because nobody overtly in the staff meeting argued with us, but then you look out the window and there is everybody having the staff meeting after the staff meeting out in the parking lot with the covert conflict. And so sometimes after a staff meeting, it's actually even just a good thing to walk up and down the hallways and to sort of get a pulse about what's going on, what's being said, because you can sort of clarify misconceptions, things they think they heard. It's what you say, they don't hear everything you say, and what you do say, they just sometimes just hear bits and pieces of it, or they have an interpretation of it because of a past experience they have, and it makes them hear something different. But success certainly does depend on trust between you and your staff, you and your community. Micropolitical leadership is on the principal's evaluation instrument. It's about how you choose to lead and manage people in your building. It's about conflict. You have to be open to the good and to the bad, and that's sometimes hard. But just sort of well, we're going to fix this. We're going to tackle it and just move on. Every staff, every school is different. The culture, climate, the community, everything is different. What we did in my first principalship, I can't do the same way in the current one. If I were to go somewhere else, I would have to wait, get a pulse on things, and try to determine how I'm going to adapt my leadership style to that. Because sometimes it's about us having to adapt, not about, most of the time, it's about us adapting, not about them learning to adapt to us. Knowing yourself helps, and that is, again, very, very hard. Walk around the building. We've talked about this before. Just have a smile on your face. If you don't, people will assume you're mad. Something's wrong. And then they're going to spend all their time focusing on what she's mad about. Little micro-political things addressed. You're going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes. But all you can do is just say, okay, and try not to make that mistake again and move forward. There are a lot of hot topics connected to this topic right now. Lots of things we could choose to talk about. Principal merit pay, I think I talked to y'all about that a little bit earlier in this semester. My salary can swing $20,000 at any given year. You can't make a budget on that. Right now, the way the salary schedule is made up in North Carolina, principals with 25 years of experience can be making the same thing as somebody with 2 years. And people will argue, well, the job's the job. And then other people will say, but there's value with craft knowledge and experience and things like that. And so whichever side of that argument, it's just one of those arguments. Whatever the hot topic is, and whatever it is, it'll be a different one next year at this time, and sort of just keeping your mind wrapped around that. Sometimes it's hard to do, but there'll always be one, always, at least one. But think about that. Think about how your teachers are dealing with it, how it's impacting them, how you can support them through difficult times as well, because they're the ones that are in front of those children, and those children deserve the best we have every single day. Have somebody to check your back, like ask your AP, like, what do they think? And they have to be able to tell you that. Check with some of your most trusted teachers. They have to feel comfortable saying, don't do that. That's tough. Check with other principals. I will say, luckily, our families probably don't say so, but luckily, my daughter is a teacher at a school about a mile away from my school. And that's a great place for me to be able to go and say, Ashley, this is what I'm thinking about. And she'll say, Mom, you better not do that. So, I mean, she's my best back checker because she feels most comfortable. But luckily, I have some teachers that I've had for about 20 years, and they turn into really good, trusted back checkers for me as well. And so they know they can say whatever they want. They know they can say, Mom, whatever, and I listen to them. Try to find a win-win. If you can find a win-win in situations, that's the best case scenario. There's not always a win-win, but if you can, try to do that, and try to keep the main thing. So people get emotional. When they get emotional, they start going off on tangents about every single thing in the world that has nothing to do with the real issue. Just try to keep the issue at hand. And it's really hard in a school. Everybody in the world sees you as a captive audience. Oh, I'll go to the school and I'll try to sell my soccer camp over at the school to all those parents because that's a great place for me to go make a whole lot of money. Well, if you don't watch it and you let one person in, you have to let everybody in. If you don't watch it, all you're doing is having soccer camp meetings and tennis camp meetings and everything else, and now we're not teaching and learning. That's probably really one of the hardest things about the principalship is keeping the focus on instruction and on the standards and not letting other things get in the way to mess with that instructional time. Sometimes if you think that you're going to have to talk about a topic with your staff that might be difficult for them to sort of wrap their mind around, you can do a flipped staff meeting. I find PowerPoint very easy to use. You just do your PowerPoints and you can go back and turn on the microphone and you can talk right over the top of it. And then when you play it, it plays your voice back. I know Kareem had done a Screencastify on one of his submissions, and that worked very nicely for him as well. But if you have something really, really big that they need time to mull over, send it out in advance. That gives them a chance to sort of see what's coming, to get past the shock value of it, and to really sort of think about it pros, cons, and be able to ask good questions, because sometimes when we present things and it's a shocker to everybody, they are unable to reply like they want to, or be able to ask good, thought-provoking questions to clear up any misunderstandings. And so sometimes that front loading by flipping the meeting can be a very helpful thing to do as well. And then I also want us to talk a little about diversity on U.S. education, which also was a part of your reading. So diversity, just in short, in simple term, is differences. And human diversity means, of course, differences among people. So in general, people, we all look alike. When we first meet someone, we will notice sometimes attributes of people such as skin color, gender, age, or clothing. This initial assessment of others can influence our relationships or engagement with them. We often make assumptions based on what we see on the outside. Not all diversities can be seen from the outside. Just because someone looks as though they grew up in a perfect world from Ozzie and Harriet's household doesn't mean that they did. We can't make assumptions based on exterior observations. I've probably told you all, my school is relatively affluent. We only have about 20% free and reduced lunch. When you look outside across the street from my school, you see very nice homes. Now there's a trailer park right next door, but it's hidden by pine trees. Nobody knows that trailer park is there. So people assume that everybody who's at our school is coming from the houses across the street. Well, guess what? I've been in some of those houses across the street. And we have some people over there who are maxed out, don't have a dime to their name, about to lose their houses, have lost their houses. We've had people across the street in million-dollar houses that didn't have power, didn't have furniture. But people on the outside make assumptions based on where they're living, thinking that everything is grand, and it's not necessarily grand. So I have this little video that I want you to see. And this is in your week 6. Right here. If you've seen this before, just bear with me. It's only a few minutes.
Dr. Hamilton, is there supposed to be volume?
You can't hear it?
No.
Okay, then never mind.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. I don't know why you can't hear it, but okay, well, it's 4 minutes. And it's right there in your week 6 for you. If you don't mind, just watch it. It really is good. It's about the summation of it is, as you saw those children going forward, they started out by saying, whoever gets to the finish line first gets this $100 bill. So if both your parents are still married, take 2 steps forward. If you never had to help your parents with the bills, take 2 steps forward. Just all these different things that impact us. If you had a private school education, take 2 steps forward. All these little advantages in life that is hard to see, and how it leaves other children disadvantaged that we don't always see. So that is really the crux of the video. 4 minutes, watch it. It is powerful. I'm sorry, I don't know why you couldn't hear it, because it was all the way up on 100 right here for me. So don't know, sorry. So diversity, back to diversity, is a huge subject. It impacts us, our staff, our students, and our schools. When we first think of diversity, we think about things that we see on the outside, historical or cultural differences, including traditions and languages. And diversity can also, as we've talked about some tonight, be situational. So things we don't necessarily see from the outside, like children who are living in unsafe neighborhoods, children who have gang influence in their homes, children who are afraid of being deported because their parents are undocumented in our country, children who are living in foster care. These are things that children bring with them every single day that we do not necessarily see. So as educators and as leaders in the schools, we have to implicitly become competent in being aware, avoiding stereotypes, being respectful of everyone. And I think I've shared my guiding principles with you before, but that includes being respectful to their faces and to their backs. Then you don't ever have to worry about anything. Being respectful of beliefs, diverse values, and different behaviors that are brought to our school. Recognizing the shared similarities among all of us. We all have a need to feel safe and secure. We all have a need to be healthy. We all deserve and need to have a good education. And all of our children deserve to have the feeling of self-worth. We have to recognize that we're different. We have to take responsibilities for the way that we react to differences. We need to attempt to see things from other people's perspectives. We need to develop problem solving and conflict resolution skills. There's a book called Critical Conversations. If you've never read that, that is a great book to read. No, Crucial or Critical, I'm looking on my shelf, I don't see it. I thought I had it over there. I can't remember now if it's called. Does anybody know Crucial or Critical Conversations?
Crucial Conversations.
Crucial, thank you. I couldn't remember if it's Crucial or Critical. Thank you, thank you. America used to be called the melting pot. That gives an image that everyone blends together and assimilates into one. But today's terms include things like a mosaic society or a tossed salad. I think a mosaic society sounds lovely. Those are metaphors, though, that helps us see our society as more of a place where individuals maintain their uniqueness and where those differences are equally valued and appreciated. So we have to be concerned about diversity in schools. We have to have an established, respectful environment. We have to have respectful relationships with others around us. For those who appear outwardly similar to us and those who appear outwardly dissimilar to us. When our students enter the workplace, it's very likely their business will require them to complete when students enter the workplace, it's likely that the business that they work for will require them to compete or cooperate with people on the other side of the world. And we're already seeing that. What, 10 or 12, 15 years ago, the world is flat was such a big thing. Well, it's really flat now. Most likely the very outward appearances, cultural traditions, and beliefs that they're going to be having to work with is going to be very dissimilar from theirs. The success of our students in this 21st century society and on the economy of the United States for us to produce children that are globally successful rest square on the shoulders of the students that we are helping to form and mold every day for them to be able to compete in this 21st century globally competitive society. Our schools are a reflection of our society, and our society is becoming more and more diverse. And the more we as educators must educate ourselves and consistently be respectful of others, and again, I'll throw in there to their faces and to their backs, and ensure that all contributions are considered and respected as valuable. We have to conscientiously ensure that we are not inadvertently giving some students an unfair advantage over other students, which is sort of what that 4-minute video shows. We also cannot subconsciously have higher expectations for some groups of students than we do others. The North Carolina Teacher Evaluation Instrument provides an expectation for teachers to intentionally develop lesson plans and select materials that counteract stereotypes. That's in that section 2B of the Teacher Evaluation Instrument. And it's your role as a school administrator when you're evaluating to be looking for that and to be documenting evidences of those things happening in your building. In our framework for 21st century learning, teachers and administrators are expected to move beyond a focus on basic competency into promoting an understanding of academic content at much higher levels by integrating a global awareness. We're also expected to integrate the 21st century competencies of financial, economic, business, and entrepreneurial literacy, civic literacy, and health literacy. So yes, we must do it all. Teachers and administrators are charged with being open and responsive to new and diverse perspectives and to demonstrate the ability to work with diverse teams. So this goes beyond just being trained in diversity or having a simple awareness. We have to embrace diversity in the school community and in the world. And teachers and administrators need to be able to demonstrate their competency in that. The North Carolina Principal Evaluation Instrument encourages us to continuously search for staff with outstanding potential as educators and provide the best placement of both new and existing staff to fully benefit from their strengths in meeting the needs of a diverse student population. So this is all a really, really huge topic that we certainly cannot solve in the next few minutes. But I encourage you as a school administrator to be competent through training, monitor for intentional teaching about differences, different points of view, and the use of materials that counteract stereotypes. Train your staff. Use education as a learning tool for students who are not respectful of differences. At our school, oftentimes in lieu of suspension, we'll assign what we literally call a college class, because it really and truly is. The students have to choose, like if someone's done something disrespectful, the children to someone else, the children have to choose a book that's on their lexile level that addresses the area in which they showed poor judgment. They have 2 weeks at home to read the book and to complete a multitude of assignments that my assistant principal or I give them that hopefully help them reflect on their actions and how their actions were hurtful and disrespectful to others. Because what we're hoping is that this teaches them to value the differences of others. We're all different and unique. Some of our students and staff look more similarly representative to our school community than others. But being respectful of everyone and remembering that just because someone looks similar to our school community majority does not necessarily mean they are similar. And because someone looks dissimilar on the outside to our school community majority does not necessarily mean that they are dissimilar. Regardless, we are all a part of that mosaic that when placed together creates a beautiful piece that has so much to offer. It's a really big topic. Just thanks for listening to all that and reflecting on how when you become a school administrator, you can have a positive influence on the vast array of diversities that will make up your school community, so that we're doing our jobs of preparing students for life and for competitive work and success in our 21st century global society, because their success will be our country's success, our community's success. One thing that I wanted to share with you that Dr. Lamb had shared one other time that I wanted to share. Back to this, and I'm talking about ethics and ethical behaviors. This is from the General Statute 115C 288, which is the duties of the principal. So there are a whole bunch of duties for the principal out of North Carolina General Statutes, but it ends with the ethics and the school executive. So there are 4 paradigms of ethics. Justice, which is fairness, equity, justice. Don't be arbitrary and capricious. Corporal punishment is illegal. That's important to know. Metal detectors are legal. Care, so loyalty, trust. We've talked about all these things. Relationship, collaboration. We've talked about that and learned about the importance of that through your APSL process and your PLC. Critique. Offense versus action, corrupted morals, power, critical theory, human rights, and then profession. Accountability for student academic and social success. Safeguard of the values of democracy, equity, and diversity. So all these things, the best interest of the students. And sometimes you might have to do something that's the best interest of a child that might be in conflict with what the parent says is the best interest of the child. These things are not easy, but that is the ethics and the school executive out of the justice, care, critique, and profession. And I wanted to show you that as well. So micropolitics of education are many and varied and hard to navigate, but we always have to maintain those ethics. And the best that you can. Do the best you can every day. Do what you think is right every day to the best of your knowledge and ability of what's right at that moment. Feel free, please, to reach out if there is anything I can do to help you. Let me look at the chats right quick. No volume, no volume. Okay, that was back to the video. Anything else before we close? Thank you again for your time and attention. Thank you for all your hard work. You are doing such great work. I know you can probably see your own growth from the first week till now. It is astronomical. You are doing so, so good. I'm so proud of all of you. You're going to all make excellent school leaders. You're going to have a positive impact on children's lives and on our 21st century society. So glad you're doing this. You are all going to make great leaders. You're already leaders. You're going to make great school leaders when you get into this role. I want to thank you again for choosing Gardner Webb. Thank you for your time and attention. And please feel free to reach out through any of my contacts if I can help you. Have a great night.